So what actually happens when the company you kind of depend on for your future growth suddenly jumps into bed with your biggest rival? I mean, that's the fascinating reality for Intel right now, ticker INTC. Welcome to De-Risk, a podcast where we provide no-nonsense analysis of stocks.
Exactly. And today we're digging into Intel using our research. We're looking at data pulled, well, just this morning, September 19th, 2025. The goal here is really to figure out if this huge company news can actually push back against a pretty nervous market backdrop.
Yeah, that backdrop is key, isn't it? The market feels like it's, trying to stay positive, but it definitely feels like whistling past a graveyard sometimes. We've got recession fears bubbling up, the job market's cooling off, and that whole US-China tech Cold War thing is still simmering away.
Right. But then, boom, you get this massive event, totally specific to Intel. Yesterday, the whole semiconductor world was kind of shaken up. Nvidia, obviously the big leader in AI chips, they announced they're investing a staggering $5 billion into Intel.
$5 billion?
Yeah.
Wow.
And partnering with them to co-develop next-gen AI stuff.
Okay, hold on. $5 billion sounds massive, and it is. But for a giant like Intel, is that really enough to fundamentally change things, especially when you look at the, let's call them the less exciting numbers?
Yeah.
Before we get swept away, what did that fundamental data you mentioned actually show?
Well, that's the core conflict, right? Before this Nvidia news dropped, the fundamentals were pretty grim. A standard fair value analysis put the stock's worth at just 14.02 cents per $14.
Ouch.
And Wall Street, they weren't exactly cheering either. Right. You had 86% of analysts, that's 37 out of 43, just rating it a hold. Not exactly a vote of confidence, so the real question becomes, does this one partnership, this one investment, completely rewrite a story where the value looked like, well, less than half where it's trading now?
But what's fascinating, right, is that the crowd sentiment, the options market, it was already leaning bullish before this news hit. We saw that put-to-call ratio at 0.6. For listeners, anything below 1.0 generally favors calls, which are bets on the price going up. So 0.6 is, well, pretty strongly bullish.
Yeah, and the short interest was tiny too, just 2.46%. Almost nobody was betting against it. And then you look at the charts post-announcement, it confirms the excitement. I mean, this was a huge, explosive breakout. It basically shifted the long-term trend from, going nowhere to decisively positive.
The volume.
Oh, the volume was incredible. It confirms this wasn't just like retail traders jumping in for a quick buck. Yesterday's price surge was backed by a tsunami of buying. That suggests big institutional money-making serious bets.
Okay, but that kind of speed, that acceleration, it almost feels too fast, doesn't it? And here's the big warning sign I see. That relative strength index, the RSI, it's basically screaming that the stock is deep into overbought territory now.
Right.
And usually that means a cool down is coming, or at least some kind of pullback is needed. Plus, volatility just went through the roof.
Yeah, absolutely. Bigger price swings are definitely on the table now.
So you put the technicals, the fundamentals, the news all together. What's the verdict?
So, connecting all these pieces, our final take is cautiously bullish.
Cautiously bullish. Okay, why cautious, given the Nvidia news?
Well, bullish because we think this Nvidia partnership is a genuine game changer for Intel. It's a company-specific catalyst, strong enough to sort of override the weak macro picture and those, frankly, stale valuation models, at least for now.
Right, for now being the key phrase. So the risks are mainly, what? That technical overbought condition you mentioned.
Exactly. That's number one. The stock is technically stretched, very prone to profit-taking, pulling it back down.
And then I guess the fundamentals haven't magically changed overnight either, right? Once the excitement cools, people might look at that $14 fair value again.
Precisely. That unattractive fundamental valuation could easily come back into focus once the euphoria wears off a bit.
Okay, so for people watching this now, what are the key levels? Where's the battleground?
Good question. It really comes down to yesterday's price action. Bulls absolutely need to push price above yesterday's high. That was $32.38. Holding above that signals this rally might have legs.
And the downside, the O level.
The critical red flag, the point where this whole bullish idea starts to look shaky, is if we see a decisive break below yesterday's low. That's $30.16. A break, there would be a major warning sign.
So Intel went from this, like slow-moving tortoise, to suddenly being strapped onto an Nvidia rocket. The big question you, the listener, need to wrestle with is, can it actually stick the landing? Or is this just chasing the smoke trail? Definitely trade carefully here. That's all for this episode. Remember, this podcast is for informational purposes only and isn't financial advice. Do your own research or consult with qualified financial advisors before making any investments. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you in the next episode.